Now on Brooklyn News Live.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it.
The breaking news we're following right now about Senator Lindsey Graham's death, what we now know what was behind it, plus the announcement that could come at any moment next hour on who will replace Lindsey Graham. And breaking news that we are continuing to follow: New York Times journalist subpoenaed by the Department of Justice. We'll bring you the latest on that and the epic heat wave that is happening right now. Video from Europe and Spain there, as it is causing wildfires, those epic heat waves. We're going to talk more about that coming up in this edition of Brooklyn News Live.
It's time for all the news you need and more. Brooklyn News Live starts right now.
And it is good to be with you. Welcome into Brooklyn News Live. I am Jackson Mitchell. We got a lot to talk about today. It is Monday, July 13th, 2026. Lots of headlines to get into. We have several developing stories, several breaking stories that we want to talk about. We do want to start off first with the breaking news that we are following from Capitol Hill. This is video from Senator Lindsey Graham speaking on the border just weeks ago. Now we have learned after his visit to Kyiv, Ukraine, that he has died at age 71. Of course, it was a moment that so many people did not see coming. Yet here we are in this moment today where we are now following the death of Senator Lindsey Graham. So again, a crazy story to even bring you guys right now that we are following. It's not something that I expected to be covering. Of course, we know that we're following the developing story about Senator Mitch McConnell, but this was not one of the stories I expected to be followed. So again, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina died Saturday night from what his office called, quote, a brief and sudden illness. Now, he was 71 years old. A top Graham staffer told NBC News that there was no indication that Graham had been feeling bad before his death, and he had been scheduled to appear on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday morning. Photographs from the scene show paramedics carrying a person on a stretcher from Graham's Washington home to an awaiting ambulance with police cars and fire trucks also on site. We want to right now, though, show you a statement that came from the office of Lindsey Graham. Again, this is a statement here that came from the office that reads, quote, the office of U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham released the following statement, quote, on the evening of Saturday, July 11th, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham passed away from a brief and sudden illness. Senator Graham's family, appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredibly challenging period, and challenging it sure will likely be. The D.C. Medical Examiner's preliminary examination found that Graham died from a aortic dissection due to a cardiovascular disease. Now, in plain terms, a tear in his body's main artery caused by a hardening of his arteries. So again, that is kind of, to put this in plain English here, as we're kind of explaining it to you here. Now, this is common in men in their 60s and 70s and can be fatal within minutes if not treated. Graham had returned to Washington just hours before his death after a trip to Kyiv, Ukraine, where he met with President Zelensky on Friday. This was his 10th visit to the war-torn country. President Trump reacted on Sunday morning on Meet the Press. Take a listen.
He's a tough one to lose. He was great. He was unique in every way, actually.
He was, Mr. President, and I know that we are all just absorbing this news. We are all in shock. Can you tell us, Mr. President, how you received this news and your immediate gut reaction when you heard it.
So what makes it even stranger is that I got a call last night sometime at, the early evening, maybe in the 7s, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. I had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker. But he sounded great, actually. But he actually said he was tired. But he wanted to pass the Save America Act. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you soon. We thought maybe we might even meet today. And then that was it. And that was, very around the time. It couldn't have been much longer. It could have been his last call. I don't know exactly. But I got a message about 1 o'clock in the morning from one of the people at his office that he had passed away. I said, I just can't believe it. He was like a member of the family to me. It's very tough, actually. It's amazing.
Mr. President.
He was such an advocate. He was, if he wanted to get something, and he had a unique ability. He was able to deal with Democrats and Republicans. If I had a problem, a real problem, I wouldn't often ask. But if I had a problem with a Democrat, he could work it out. He was a great politician, actually.
He loved his.
Yeah, so you hear that interview there on Meet the Press, and we do want to note right now that we are following the Senate floor that is meeting for the first time since the death of Senator Graham. Now, President Trump also posted on Truth Social, quote, Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the greatest people and senators I've ever known, is dead. He was always working and was a true American patriot. Trump said he ordered that the flags be ordered to have staff in memorial of him. We do want to play a full moment that really, the infamous moment that really kind of made Senator Lindsey Graham so iconic in what he did. This is the moment that you saw there in the intro that he pressed Democrats on the confirmation of Supreme Court now justice. At the time, this was the confirmation hearing to confirm him to be a justice or deny him to be a justice. This is Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing. Take a listen.
At 9:23, on the night of July the 9th, the day you were nominated to the Supreme Court by President Trump, Senator Schumer said, 23 minutes after your nomination, I will oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination with everything I have. I have a bipartisan, and I hope a bipartisan majority will do the same. The stakes are simply too high for anything less. Well, if you weren't aware of it, you are now. Did you meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein on August 20th?
I did meet with Senator Feinstein.
Did you know that her staff had already recommended a lawyer to Dr. Ford?
I did not know that.
Did you know that her and her staff had this allegations for over 20 days?
I did not know that at the time.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None.
Okay, we are going to interrupt the video that is playing to take you live right now to the Senate floor as Senate leader, Republican leader John Thune is speaking. Let's take a listen and let's, as he pours out on the life and legacy of Lindsey Graham. Let's take a listen.
Lindsey Graham's desk. It's difficult to believe that Lindsey Graham is no longer here with us. that we won't run into him at a media day or share a joke with him at this afternoon's vote. The halls of the Senate already feel empty without him. And I know I'm not alone in that feeling. He was a friend to so many of us on both sides of the aisle. And I know that I'm not the only one who finds it difficult to imagine the Senate without Lindsey Graham. Mr. President, the events of Lindsey's life have been well documented over the past couple of days. His humble beginnings in South Carolina, sharing a single room with the rest of his family behind his family's bar. His guardianship of his younger sister, Darlene, after the untimely death of their parents. His long service in the Air Force, the South Carolina Air National Guard, and the Air Force Reserve. His career in politics, first as a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, then as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, where I served with him for 6 years, and then in the Senate, where he was just completing his 4th term. In the Senate, Lindsey distinguished himself as a staunch conservative and a fierce advocate for South Carolina, but also as someone who was willing to work across the aisle to find common ground and to reach solutions. A lawyer by trade, he serves as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee from 2019 to 2021, where he helped confirm a Supreme Court justice and numerous federal judges, the kind of judges who believe in following the law and the Constitution instead of legislating policy from the bench. Most of all, of course, Mr. President, Lindsey was known for his national security and foreign policy work. There was no bigger believer in America's role in the world. He was confident that the United States could be a force for good, and he gave everything he had to ensuring that we would be. He was a friend and defender of freedom-loving peoples all over the world. He stood with the Ukrainian people in their fight against Russian aggression, and he died with his boots on, having just returned from a trip to Ukraine, his 10th. He believed fiercely in the importance of a strong national defense, in ensuring that our country and our military men and women were always prepared to deter and defeat any threat. But while there was always a lot made of his support for American hard power, he was also a big believer in the use of soft power, economic, diplomatic, and political solutions to the world's problems. I was fortunate to travel with him all over the world, including to Israel after Hamas's October 7th attack. And I saw firsthand the work that he did to promote American security and the security of freedom-loving peoples around the globe. And of course, I don't need to tell anyone in this body that Lindsey was fearless in his commitment to the causes that he espoused. It didn't matter to him whether he would catch flack on an issue. He was undaunted by the politics if he believed he was right on the principle. Senator, warrior, patriot, statesman. Words that will be written about Lindsey. But for me, most of all, Mr. President, he was my friend. Without friends, Aristotle said, no one would choose to live, although he had all other goods. And it's difficult to count the ways in which Lindsey's friendship made this job richer and its burdens lighter. Lindsey was as loyal as they come and a trusted advisor. I could always rely on him for straight-talking advice. He never minced words or pulled punches. I could also rely on him for a steady flow of humor and encouragement. He always could make me laugh, always. In the last couple of years, he came to South Dakota twice, and twice we sat on the deck and watch the sun go down on Lake Oahe. A familiar scene to me, but new to him. And as the stars came out, you could see the Milky Way overhead, and you could hear coyotes howling and rooster pheasants cackling down below. Lindsay's wit punctuated all of it. And I will cherish those memories for a long time to come. Mr. President, if there is any light to be found in this grief, it is this: that as a Christian like Lindsay, I know that death is not the end. The Apostle Paul writes, and I quote, "Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him," end quote. Or as another Graham once put it, and I quote, "Someday you will read or hear that Billy Graham is dead. Don't you believe a word of it. I shall be more alive than I am now. I will just have changed my address. I will have gone into the presence of God," end quote. I will miss Lindsay's friendship, Mr. President, more than I can say. We pray for his staff and for his family, whom he loved dearly and who loved him dearly in return. But I am comforted by the knowledge that in the end, he has just changed his address. And that one day, Mr. President, we will laugh together again. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Yeah, lots of emotion there as again the Senate leader, the Republican leader, John Thune, just paid his tribute to Lindsey Graham. Okay. So as you continue to watch Brookland News Live, there's so much that we could talk about. There's so much news going on. We do want to continue kind of telling you what we know right now. You may have noticed in the graphic there on the bottom of your screen, we do expect there to be a press conference to come at 3 p.m. today. We'll be live for an extended edition of Brookland News Live, and we'll air that live for you. That press conference is expected to be with the South Carolina Governor McMaster. He's expected to announce the replacement. There has already been a little bit of speculation that the person to serve the remainder of his term will be his sister, who Graham adopted and took in after, you heard John Thune mention this, but his parents' unexpected death. Darlene is his Senator Graham's sister's name, so there you go. Show you a true social post from President Trump, if we can't here. That was the president saying this about Darlene, and that she should be the pick here. I want to show it to you again. This is the Truth Social from the president, where he says, quote, "I recommend to Governor Henry McMaster that Lindsey Graham's wonderful sister Darlene to serve as interim senator from the great state of South Carolina. This would be a fabulous tribute to Lindsey, who loved her dearly. President Donald J. Trump." So again, you see that there. The president saying that it should be Darlene who takes over. I'm sorry, I'm really just taken away by the speech that was delivered there. It was hard. It was a lot. There was a lot going on. I just can't even begin to imagine the emotion that you are seeing, Republican, Democrat. But this is a person who he worked on both sides of the aisle. He may have been a conservative, but he worked on both sides of the aisle. So again, sad to see, and it's gonna be sad for all of these long-serving Congress members. I want to use the same coverage for him that I do for any other senator that passes away. So again, that press conference, we're gonna air it live here. So stick with us for that, an extended edition of Brooklyn News Live. We also know that Democrat Cory Booker weighed into all of this, and I do want to show you what he said, but the video that we have planned for you, it also shows John Thune, and since we already played John Thune speaking there on the Senate floor, I kind of want to cut this to where Senator Cory Booker begins speaking. So here's that video. Let's go ahead and take you there now and listen in.
To Lindsey Graham, and I'm a brand new senator, determined to do something about mass incarceration. And I hear through Dick Durbin and others that he's the guy to work with. And I say, Mr. Graham, sir, I'd like to work with you on criminal justice reform. He seems almost amused by what I said. He goes, Cory, do you understand? I'm in a primary right now, and I'm running against a guy who is batshit crazy. I can't even so much as talk to you right now. Get out of here, man. Come back to me after my primary. And I laughed and came back to him after the primary. And true to his word, he rolled up his sleeves and we went to work. And thanks to him and Dick Durbin and some other Senate heroes, our bill became the First Step Act after years, 2 presidents, 2 Congresses, and became law. One of my favorite moments in that negotiation was at the last minute, I'm trying to force one more thing into that bill. This has to do with children being put in solitary confinement. And I am going at it with this White House official who says, no, hard no. And we're almost yelling at each other. And then he says, I'm going to get Lindsey Graham on the phone and he will tell you. And so he gets the White House operator to connect Lindsey Graham onto the phone. And Lindsey Graham listens for maybe a hot second and then interrupts the guy and says, are you kidding me? We need Cory Booker to get this bill done. We can't do it without him. Give him what he wants.
Cory Booker there saying what he remembers being Senator Lindsey Graham. Alrighty, still to come right here on Brooklyn News Live. We are going to talk about, first of all, the latest developments on the war with Iran, major developments made over the weekend. We're going to here to break those down for you. Plus, the New York Times journalists that have been subpoenaed after their coverage of that new Air Force One. We talked about it last week. We're talking about it even more and what is behind those subpoenas. Brooklyn News Live will be back here in just 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Alrighty, welcome back here to Brookland News Live. Still a lot to come here. We're going to talk about the war in Iran, the latest developments there, and the subpoena New York Times journalist. So stick with this here. You're taking a look from earlier today at the Strait of Hormuz via marine traffic, as the U.S. military over the weekend launching a second consecutive night of strikes. These are massive strikes in Iran. This one overnight on Saturday into Sunday, hitting dozens of Iranian military targets at multiple locations with precision munitions, with Iranian state media reporting explosions on Qasem Island and in the cities of Bandar Abbas and Hajabiyad. The U.S. said the new strikes came after Iran's Revolutionary Guard fired at another commercial vessel in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran fired back, hitting U.S. military facilities in Bahrain, claiming it destroyed radar systems in Oman, launching missiles and drones at Jordan, Kuwait. Now, in Kuwait, the IRGC claimed it targeted a U.S. surface-to-surface missile base, setting fire to 2 HIMARS missile launchers and missile-packed warehouses and completely destroying them. Jordan's military did confirm it intercepted and downed 4 missiles that entered its airspace from Iranian territory. The Arab parliament called the attacks, quote, a violation of the sovereignty of Arab countries and a breach of international law, unquote. Now, President Trump also announcing today that the U.S. will be reinstalling a full blockade of Iranian ships in the Strait of Hormuz, with the U.S. acting as its guardian and charging other ships for passage. Iran and the U.S. are now making complete contradictory claims about whether the Strait of Hormuz is really even open. Iran here, they insist it's closed and that any ships must coordinate directly with its military. Well, the U.S. says the traffic is flowing and the southern route has been expanded to support two-way traffic. Fresh strikes in Iran have killed at least 17 people and injured 150. You heard that right. Now, that's according to Iranian health authorities. The Iranian military warned today that the risk of a regional conflict has increased, unquote, and that any country cooperating with the U.S. or providing logistical support will be regarded as, quote, an act of war against Iran's sovereignty and national security. Now, despite that massive exchange of fire, an Iranian delegation did travel to Oman on Saturday to continue negotiations via mediators. Now, this is a sign that the back-channel diplomacy has not completely collapsed. Now, Trump, he again in that phone call that we played earlier for you on NBC on Sundays, Meet the Press that airs on NBC, the president said, quote, they agreed to a deal yesterday, a perfect deal for U.S., no nuclear, no this, no that, no nothing. They gave up everything, and then after that, they left the room, and then within an hour, they launched a drone at a ship, unquote. Trump also threatened to, quote, completely decimate and destroy, unquote, Iran if it made any attempt on its life. Again, those massive claims are made by both the U.S. and Iran here. We're going to be watching it all. Want to get you caught up to date on those fuel prices and where things stand right now across the United States. Of course, after those overnight strikes, they're up once again. So you heard that right here. They are up once again after those overnight strikes. So want to get you to what things look like now after those strikes. Here we go. We'll bring it into this. This is a look, continued look there at the Strait of Hormuz. So 387 is the national average, and what I'll do here for you is bring in where you guys can see it on your screen. So right now, this is the national average. And 387, scroll down just a little bit, go to Arkansas. 345 is the national average across Arkansas. Specifically, if you're talking about things in Jonesboro, 340, so down just about 15 cents from the Arkansas average. So again, prices continuing to rise and something that we are continuing to follow. So again, big news about the war in Iran there. Strikes made over the weekend. We're going to watch the developments throughout the week. The president continued to say that there are, some conversations ongoing, but the question is, how far are their conversations are going if Iran is just shutting down the Strait of Hormuz randomly, and then the U.S. has to initiate what it has called its naval blockade once again. So it's just part of this story that we are continuing to watch, and what the future of it looks like. We don't quite have that information just yet. I want to turn right now to another big story that we are following right now, and this is Brookland News reporting that we are following about all of this, and this is reporting about Brookland, things happening throughout Craighead County. So as they take you to right now, what things look like right now in Brookland, a bond dispute has now parked a public safety dispute as it's brewing right here in Craighead County, and it traces back to a decision voters made 2 years ago. So this all came back up when a new report from NEA report revealed that deputy prosecutors in the 2nd Judicial District had been emailing jail staff to lower defendants' bonds without a judge's signature. So that's a violation of the Arkansas Rules of Criminal Procedure. Now, the reporting centered on defendant Robert Sanders, whose $250,000 bond was cut down to only $150,000 by a deputy prosecutor after District Judge Tommy Fowler had already set the amount in court. Now, records show the practice was not isolated. One request covered 31 people at once. Prosecuting attorney Sonia Haygood confirmed the practice had likely gone for over a decade or more, and defended it by pointing to the county's overcrowded jail, saying, quote, that jail tax didn't pass, so we're not getting more jail beds, unquote. Sheriff Marty Boyd had backed her up, saying the arrangement grew out of necessity rather than misconduct, and that his office would not be investigating past bond practices. The root of the problem goes back to November 2024, when Craighead County voters rejected a half-cent sales tax that would have funded a new detention center. Now, at the time, Boyd told the Brookland City Council the jail, built 35 years ago for 160 inmates, was booking closer to 450 people on an average day. The county's inmate population has continued climbing since, and neither Boyd nor Haygood has said whether another jail funding measure would go before voters again. We've got that full story up on Brookland News Live, brooklandnews.com, excuse me, if you are interested in knowing more about this. If you want to know more about this story, excuse me, sorry. So again, you can visit brooklandnews.com. You know, that's the place you go where we have got all of the big stories that you need to know. All of those stories, all of those, we're getting there. Sorry. All of those stories, local news, weather, more, visit brooklandnews.com for that. Sorry, we're trying to multitask. Okay, we do want to turn to this yet again, another developing story that we're following right now. It is breaking news as we are continuing to monitor it, and it is about New York Times journalist. So the War Department, or the Department of Justice, the War Department is the Department of Defense, my bad. The Department of Justice, has subpoenaed 4 New York Times journalists, Julian Barnes, Eric Lipton, Tyler Pager, and Eric Schmidt, after they reported on security concerns involving President Trump's new Qatari-gifted Air Force One. Federal agents delivered the subpoenas to some of the reporters at their homes on Friday evening, ordering them to testify before a federal grand jury in Manhattan this Wednesday. Now, the Times reported that Trump left the NATO summit in Turkey on their old Air Force One over security concerns from the Secret Service, revealing that the new $400 million Qatari-gifted Boeing 747-8 lacked specific security and countermeasure technology. Before the story was published, a senior FBI official called the Times and asked them not to run it, citing national security, but declined to explain the actual security issue and asked the Times to reveal its sources, which the paper refused. The DOJ said it was not targeting reporters, but was concerned about people leaking classified information, while the National Press Club called the subpoenas, quote, an extraordinary assault on the freedom of the press that strikes at the heart of the First Amendment, unquote, demanding they be immediately withdrawn. Now, the Times, as top attorney David McCraw fired back, quote, the appearance of federal law enforcement agents on the doorstep of news reporters should shock the conscience of any American who believes in the Constitution and the press freedom it protects. This is nothing more than an attempt to prevent the public knowing what is happening to their country by intimidating journalists from doing their jobs, unquote. Now, the Times says it will fight these subpoenas in court. Now, this is the latest pattern of the Trump administration's actions against major news outlets, following subpoenas against the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal earlier this year, and an FBI search of one Washington Post journalist's home back in January. So it's a story that we are following. It's breaking news right now that we are continuing to follow. Alrighty, and we are continuing to follow what is happening right now in the Senate as they are continuing their meeting. This is the first time after the death of Senator Lindsey Graham. If we see other people begin speaking there, we will take you there live. So stick with us for that. Again, that is coming up here in just a few moments if more people begin speaking. Alrighty, we are tracking some more developing stories this hour.
Target of the ICE search.
2 ICE shootings in recent days. So this is one from Houston. You're taking a look at the footage from it. This is last week when ICE agents, in an unmarked vehicle followed Lorenzo Salgado Arujo after he picked up co-workers for a construction job. Now, the Department of Homeland Security said officers thought one of the men in the van resembled someone they were looking for, and that Arujo attempted to run over an officer who then fired in self-defense. But an attorney for the two of the men in the van tells a very different story, saying that Arujo had already parked in the van when an ICE agent reached in through a window on the passenger side and fired a shot directly in front of another passenger's face, striking Arujo on the side and killing him. Now, a source later confirmed to multiple outlets that Arujo was not even the target of the operation. The shooting sparked mass protests in Houston's heavily Hispanic East End and calls from top Democrats for an independent investigation. So again, you see just a video there. Devastating to hear. It's going to be interesting to see if we get more footage into exactly how this incident might have happened. And as we were preparing for this story today, we've since learned about another ICE shooting. This one out of Maine. This is breaking news from this morning, just 6 days after the Houston shooting. A second person was killed in an ICE-involved shooting, this time in Biddeford, Maine. It's a city just about with 21,000 people. It's just 15 miles south of Portland. Now, Maine House Speaker Ryan Fatu confirmed the shooting in a Facebook post, writing, quote, "A person was killed. ICE was involved. State police and the Department of Public Safety are now on scene." Unquote. The FBI has also been called to investigate. Now, details are at this point in time extremely limited at this hour. ICE and DHS have not responded to requests for comment, and Biddeford police say their only role was to secure the area. The two shootings have reunited national calls for accountability among ICE agents, a debate that has been simmering since January, when 2 U.S. citizens, 37-year-old mother Renee Good and 37-year-old ICE Alex Preddy, were killed by federal immigration agents during a Trump administration operation. That was in Minneapolis. You might remember our coverage of that just a few months ago. Now, protesters, have already gathered in Biddeford this morning, and Maine Governor Janet Mills says she has been briefed on the incident, saying, quote, "I know that situations like these are alarming and frightening. This story now is developing. We will continue to monitor and bring you updates as they come in." Again, more updates to come on this story. You're taking a look at the scene from earlier today. Alrighty, we've got more to come on the breaking news on Senator Lindsey Graham's death from the Senate. Again, we noted a few moments ago that we are continuing to monitor the Senate. So if anything happens, that is still to come. Right here on Brookland News Live, we're going to bring you updates on that when we get there. Plus, we are going to bring you heat wave in Europe. The video of this is crazy. It's causing wildfires, and we've now got live video to bring you coming up here in just a moment from just south of Paris, where a fire is continuing to burn simply because of the major heat. It's when we come back right here on Brookland News Live. And welcome back live here into Brooklyn News Live. Jack Mitchell still here with you. For the news. You are taking a live look right now at the Fontainebleau Forest. This is south of Paris, as Europe is quite literally burning this afternoon. A pushing sequence of 3 separate heat waves since late May has left the continent tinder dry, killing at least 14 people in wildfires, forcing tens of thousands to flee their homes, and searching through Spain, Portugal, France, Greece, Italy, and Turkey, and the United Kingdom as well. June 2026 was the hottest June ever recorded in Western Europe. Temperatures, they peaked at nearly 9 degrees Celsius. That is above normal in France and Germany, and the mercury hitting 45.1 degrees in southern Spain. This is, of course, in Celsius. Scientists estimate more than 5,600 people have died, from heat-related causes during the late June wave, alone, separate from the wildfire death. So again, just devastating to hear, and really just, I just want to show you some of this video. Take a listen. Yeah, so you just see some of it see some of it there. This morning, about 500 firefighters were continuing to race and continue to try to contain a rapidly spreading wildfire. That was in Fontainebleau Forest. That was the live feed that we were just taking a look at from Fontainebleau Forest. Fire crews are using tanker aircraft to drop water and and have ordered residents in the area to shelter in place, while southern France has been regularly battling wildfires. Officials say it is extremely rare to see a fire of this size in the greater Paris region. Now in Spain, firefighters worked through the weekend to contain one of the country's deadliest wildfires in years, killing at least 13 people and burning through 70 square kilometers near Almeria. In the United Kingdom, fire crews battled blazes stretching to North Wales, with evacuations ordered in a fire in northeast London, burning one house and forcing train passengers to evacuate. So again, a big story that we will continue to follow. Okay, we want to bring you this next story. It is one that we have been following right here on Brooklyn News Live, and I've talked about these last week. We talked about all of this and what has exactly been going on. We want to talk about it even more because it is a developing story that a lot of people are following. After nearly a month of silence and growing speculation, Senator Mitch McConnell finally broke his silence. That came yesterday evening, revealing that a fall at his Washington home back on June 14th is what sent him to the hospital. The 84-year-old Kentucky Republican released a statement and a photo of himself smiling alongside his former transportation secretary wife, Elaine Chao, a clear attempt to quell widespread online conspiracy theories and rumors that, well, McConnell has died or has been severely incapacitated. Quote, "My doctors have confirmed that I didn't break any bones or suffer a concussion. I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. I don't have any tumors or, I don't have any tumors," unquote, "but I was briefly unconscious and was taken to the hospital," McConnell said. He also disclosed that he developed a mild case of pneumonia during his hospitalization, which was responded quickly by antibiotics and has since been moved to a rehabilitation facility. Yeah, the controversy surrounding the hospitalization has been intense, and for good reason. For nearly 4 weeks, McConnell's office said virtually nothing, that he was, quote, "receiving excellent care," refusing to disclose even the most basic details about why he was admitted. Now, the lack of transparency is what sparked all of those rumors, prompting multiple Republican senators to issue statements claiming they had spoken with him. Now, critics claim those calls unverifiable and even led Kentucky's Democratic Governor Andy Bashar to take the extraordinary step of issuing a public letter demanding that McConnell update his constituents. Now, McConnell addressed the silence in his statement, writing, "You all know how folks in my generation often hesitate to share the vulnerability that comes with growing older, even in the public eye. I feel that same instinct. I can't help it, unquote. Now, the stakes of McConnell's absence could not be higher, especially now. His prolonged hospitalization has already helped Democrats pass a resolution against Trump's Iran war, with 4 Republicans breaking ranks to vote in favor, while McConnell was unable to vote. And the sudden death of Senator Lindsey Graham yesterday further thinning the Republican majority, which already stood at just 53 to 47. The Senate's balance of power is now in an extraordinarily precarious position. McConnell said he remains unable to vote, but is determined to finish his term, retiring in January, saying, quote, "I still have unfinished business to complete on your behalf, and I have every intention of finishing the job you elected me to do." Okay. We're going to be back with more news coming up on the other side. We are also standing by for, again, this extended edition of Brookland News Live. We will have live for you coming up here in just a moment. And we're actually going to pivot just a little bit here because it appears that Senator Dick Durbin is speaking on the Senate floor. And we do want to take you live there. But again, coming up in just a moment, we expect the governor of South Carolina to make an announcement to announce the replacement of Lindsey Graham after his death on early Sunday morning. Let's listen into the Senate as the second Senate Minority Whip, kind of the second in these roles in the Senate, speaking on the floor.
When I happened to become the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee for 4 years, Lindsey Graham was my ranking Republican, sitting right next to me every session of that committee. We had our share of disagreements on issues and nominees, but I knew that his word was always good. If he told me he was going to vote something for something or some person, he did. He delivered. And we had a good working relationship between us. No cheap shots. No stabs in the back. He voted in favor of 75% of the judicial nominations that we considered while I was chair. And there were 235 lifetime appointments that came out of that committee. Even though they were nominated by a president from a political party, he announced early on that if I expect Democrats to vote for Republican nominees, I have to support Democratic nominees to show the same spirit of cooperation. And he did. He kept his word. That was who Lindsey was. He was proud to be a fierce Republican partisan, but he never lost sight of the need to work across the aisle to make a difference in the lives of Americans. Loretta and I send our condolences to Lindsey's family and his legion of friends in South Carolina and around the world. He was an extraordinary member of the Senate. He helped to make it work. There was never any bipartisan meeting of a gang or however you characterize it that Lindsey wasn't in the ranks. I remember when John McCain and he led the Republican side in an immigration reform effort. I was part of that on the Democratic side. After months, literally months of negotiating, we brought a package to the floor which passed with an overwhelming bipartisan vote to show that we can do things like that and we should still be able to. But for those things to occur, it's not just a matter of a good idea. You need good people who are willing to be respectful of one another and to work hard to find common ground. Lindsey was one of those people. As I noted, our trip last week to Turkey was an effort to discuss some of the war and peace issues of our time. Lindsey knew the stakes at play in Ukraine and the importance of standing up to Russian tyranny. This topic was top of mind for all those who attended the NATO summit, which concluded in Turkey last week. I attended the summit with a bipartisan group of senators, including Senators Jeanne Shaheen, Mike Rounds, Chris Coons, and Congressman Mike Turner. Senator Graham joined us as part of the visit as well. With the war in Ukraine entering its 5th bloody year, the timing of this event was important as tides began to turn in Ukrainian favor. Not only did Ukraine repel the initial invasion by one of the world's largest armies, it is increasingly showing progress in winning this conflict. Russia has been unable to seize additional land and is suffering staggering losses that no political leader can sustain for a war of folly. Ukraine has also increasingly taken the conflict to Russia, weakened its energy and military infrastructure, and turning Russian public opinion against this war in Ukraine. Unlike Russia, Ukraine is careful not to strike civilian targets. I'm happy to report from the NATO summit that the alliance remains determined to see Ukraine defend itself from Russia. Most of the 32-member bloc, formed from the ashes of World War II, have notably increased their defense spending. They are contributing more funding, equipment, and personnel, and are reminding one another of their commitment and importance of this historic alliance. I was glad that President Trump attended the summit. He and President Obama were right to push our allies to pay more of their fair share for the cost of NATO. But President Trump's constant rhetoric belittling the alliance and dreams of conquering Greenland and other follies have been ill-timed, boorish, and counterproductive. They send exactly the wrong message to President Putin about America's resolve and commitment. They put countries such as the Baltic states and Poland at even greater risk of future Russian aggression. Already, Putin is testing the alliance through sabotage, hybrid attacks, misinformation, and assassination. And with the war turning against Russia, Putin may lash out further. This is not the time for President Trump to show Putin any weakness. So I was heartened by the incredible solidarity and resolve on full display at the NATO summit. Quite simply, NATO is alive and well, as is allied support for Ukraine. Congress continues to show strong bipartisan support for NATO, including through funding, troop-level requirements, and the Baltic Security Initiative. But we can do more, notably helping Ukraine with desperately needed air defense. We should also continue to keep U.S. troop deployment as part of the NATO effort in frontline NATO member states. And we can, at long last, pass one of the two bipartisan Ukrainian bills pending in this chamber, one of them being a sanctions package that Lindsey Graham worked with Senator Blumenthal tirelessly to build support for. I understand that Lindsey had finally arranged for this measure to be introduced even this week. I hope we still go forward with the bill without delay. Lastly, after the NATO summit, we had a chance to visit Hungary, one of our NATO allies. There was a recent election in Hungary that unseated Viktor Orban after 16 years, a period that included democratic backsliding and being a thorn in the side of European efforts to help Ukraine. I want to congratulate the Hungarian people on this peaceful transfer of power and decision to play a more constructive role in European security, including standing with Ukraine. Theirs is a welcome choice that we should support here in the Senate, something I'll do in my remaining time. Mr. President,
all right, Senator Dick Durbin speaking there. We're going to sneak in a very quick break. I want to note here, we are continuing to monitor because just moments away, we expect for that press conference to get underway with Henry McMaster, the governor of South Carolina. We're back here in just a few seconds. Now, on this second hour of Brookland News Live, an extended edition, we will take you live to the breaking news right now. A press conference set to be held with Henry McMaster, the Republican governor of South Carolina, to announce the replacement of now the late Senator Lindsey Graham. We will take you there live, coming up here in just a few moments. A second hour of Brookland News Live starts right now.
Brookland News Live starts right now with breaking news.
and welcome into this second hour of Brookland News Live. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It is good to be with you. We have a lot to talk about. It's Monday, July 13th, 2026. This is the second hour here as we continue our breaking news coverage. Again, we are standing by for a press conference with Republican South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster to announce the future of the seat that Lindsey Graham once held. We're standing by for that press conference to begin. We are also continuing to monitor the breaking news out of the Senate as it is now being live streamed there. You see the live stream there. It is now opened up for the first time since Lindsey Graham's death. We're live there bringing you all of the breaking news. It is good to be with you. We have a lot to talk about. Again, we're standing by mostly for this press conference to get underway out of Columbia, South Carolina. When it does, it's an extended edition of Brookland News Live here, so we're live with it. We have it ready to go, and at any moment when they step out, we have the live stream ready to go for you. So again, this could begin at any moment. So again, we are standing by for this to begin. Excuse me. Sorry, I was just reading some of the other news that is coming into us right now. And it looks like some more people are stepping up here to get in the line behind. It's going to be behind Governor McMaster when he begins his speech. I'm going to kind of turn the... Okay, we have audio here, but it's kind of just staticky a little bit. I'm going to kind of keep it turned up there in the distance as we await for this in this second hour of Brookland News Live. Again, we expect this to be, again, just moments away here.
It's like my daughter.
I would gladly take that.
So again, as we wait and we were kind of bringing you into the second hour, excuse me here, I just don't want to leave you guys on too much silence. I just want to catch you guys back up to date on what has occurred here, why there's being this press conference, why is Senator Lindsey Graham being replaced. Early Sunday morning, I should say, his staff announced that he had passed away. We want to pull up that statement for you because I do believe we still have it ready to go at any moment. Excuse me, you're on TV 1 second here for that statement that came in from the office of Senator Graham. I believe we have it here. This is the statement. We're seeing some more people come to the stage as it appears that speech is about to get underway from Governor McMaster. Okay, let's take you live full screen there and listen in.
On the other side?
No, you be right there. We need somebody to balance all that out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. This is an important day in South Carolina history. There'll be other celebrations and events of all kinds. But I and the family thank all of you for coming here today. We meet in sadness over the loss of one of South Carolina's greatest sons. Here we also gather together to celebrate what this self-described poor boy from a small town, rural town in South Carolina accomplished through grit, determination, and character for his state, for his country, and for his world. Lindsey Graham recognized the greatness of America and her obligations to a dangerous world. Lindsey Graham recognized the seriousness of his work, but also the value of humor and a lighthearted spirit. Lindsey Graham understood the hopes, dreams, and needs of his state and delivered for his state every time. Presidents, paupers, famous or forgotten, he treated us all the same. We have seen him attack evil and injustice and embrace friendship and the common good with equal fervor and strength. Yes, we are going to miss Lindsey, but we will always remember his quickness, his laugh, and what he has done for us and the world. As he described himself, this poor boy from a little town in South Carolina. Today, under the law, it's my duty and honor to name someone to serve in the place of this irresistible man, this irreplaceable man, this extraordinary man for the remainder of his term. Lindsey took care of his little sister in years long departed. It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. And by the way, Darlene, I don't know if I told you, but after we spoke on the phone in the wee hours of Sunday morning, and you agreed to serve through tears, earlier, I had wondered what you would say, and I was humbled by your quickness to see the duty that you had to serve. And I called the president afterwards, and he thought it was a great idea. And I'm sure that everyone here does as well. Darlene, little sister, come forward, please.
Thank you, Governor, and just bear with me as I try to get through this. But first, I just want to say one thing I've never heard Lindsey described as is irresistible. So, okay, we'll just start with that. But first, I would like to thank everyone who has called and reached out over the past couple of days. I can't tell you how much it's meant to me and our family. I know Lindsey was loved and respected by many, and I greatly appreciate the memories and even the funny stories that have been shared. These shared experiences, along with our faith, have gotten us through these past 2 very difficult days. Next, I want to thank the governor for selecting me to serve the remainder of Lindsey's term. It is such an honor. Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him. My brother was the most amazing person, outstanding leader, and just a genuinely good man. He was kind and considerate and loved by his family dearly. As I think everyone would agree, Lindsey worked harder than anyone. He worked nonstop to make our state, country, and world better. He loved his family and loved serving this state and our country. He dedicated his life to our country. It is such a privilege to get to finish some of his important work, and I promise to work hard over the next several months to support the President and carry forward the efforts of my brother on behalf of the citizens of South Carolina and the United States. I know Lindsey thought the world of his staff and colleagues, and with their support, I feel confident. I think this is what Lindsey would have wanted, and I plan to honor him in this way. Now to Lindsey, I miss you more than I can even put into words, but I'm going to do this. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes this ceremony. Thank you. This way.
Alrighty, a very quick press conference there as you continue watching as they exit the stage. You see the supporters, the people behind them, the officials of South Carolina, all standing there in solidarity with the decision by South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. They're announcing that Graham's sister, Darlene, will finish out the term of Senator Lindsey Graham, which is until the midterms. So that will be until January. So the midterms will come in November, and then January, when all of the people in the Senate will get sworn in again, the new people there. So again, that is that room where the press conference just happened a few moments ago. The big, wasn't as surprising. Of course, we brought you at the first hour of Brookland News Live that there was going to be a press conference. Not only that, we talked about that there was speculation between several people, including Leader John Thune in the Senate, who said Darlene would have been a good choice. We also know that President Trump said Darlene would have been a good choice, and now we just heard the speech from Darlene announcing that she will take his place and finish out his term until in January. Now, if she decides to run in the midterms here, we don't quite know, for a special election to continue serving in that role. That is unclear. We don't quite have the answer to that question just yet. It's something that we will continue monitoring. Okay, this has been an extended edition of Brookland News Live. We wanted to stay on the air just a little longer here, just so we could get that press conference out of the way. I want to thank all of you for tuning in throughout the last 2 hours. Just a reminder that you can join us again back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. and we will have the latest on the big headlines, the news, weather, more coming up tomorrow at 2 p.m. So we will see you all then, and unless big news breaks that we got to be on the air for, have a great day and stay safe.